It's still the morning show here on Arise News, and now it's time to take us to news making headlines around the globe. The National Council of State has unanimously approved the nomination of Professor Joash Amupitan as the new chairman of Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The council, chaired by President Bola Tinubu, also approved presidential pardon for 175 Nigerians, including the Ogoni 9, and endorsed new appointments into key federal institutions. State House correspondent Adesua Omoran reports.
Nigeria's Council of State, chaired by President Bola Tinubu and made up of former heads of state, governors and leaders of the National Assembly, are meeting for the second time under the Tinubu administration. At the top of the agenda, the leadership of the nation's electoral body ahead of the 2027 general elections.
So in keeping with that statutory provisions, Mr. President today recommended to Council of State Professor Joash Amupitan. Joash is a professor of law, as a matter of fact, also a professor of evidence. He's a highly respected scholar with impeccable credentials. And on the presentation of his name, Council unanimously approved and consented to the recommendation for his appointment. Speaker after speaker spoke glowingly of this professor as a very serious-minded scholar, a man of high integrity, and a tested and trusted hand who has never participated in any partisan politics.
Professor Amupitan, 58, is the Senior Advocate of Nigeria and Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of Jos. He becomes the first person from Kogi State in Nigeria's North Central region to be nominated for the position. He replaces Professor Mahmood Yakubu, who bowed out this week after a decade-long service as INEC chairman. Notably absent from the hybrid meeting were the former heads of state, Yakubu Gowon, Olusegun Obasanjo, and Goodluck Jonathan. The Council of State also acknowledged the security challenges facing the country.
The National Council of States also acknowledged the security challenges in the country and did everything to support, because the second meeting, which was the Police Council, is meant to boost the capability of Nigerian police to fight crime. I think they aligns properly with the concerns of every Nigerian and the increasing insecurity, while also acknowledging the role and the successes recorded of late by our security agencies. I think it is a general concern. Security is for all of us.
The highest advisory council also approved the president's recommendation for the prerogative of mercy to be handed to 175 citizens across Nigeria, including a posthumous pardon for Military General Maman Vasta and the Ogoni 9, environmental activists executed under military rule in 1995.
After the deliberation, the council approved unanimously for the different categories of the prerogative of mercy. The total is about 175. Of the total, email recommended for presidential clemency were about 82. Those recommended for reduced sentence for their terms of imprisonment are 65. And those recommended for reduced sentences from death to life imprisonment are about 7 in number. The chairman of National Population Commission that was appointed based on the approval of the Council of States unanimously is Dr. Aminu Yusuf from Niger State, as well as the Federal Commissioner representing Yobe State in person of Alhaji Tonga Betara Bularafa, who is also appointed today and unanimously approved by the Council of State.
Council members also endorsed 959 national honours and special awards for 2024 and 2025, recognising contributions in public service, sports, journalism and humanitarian work. In a separate session, the Police Council approved an increase in the Nigeria Police Trust Fund allocation from 0.5 to 1% of the Federation account.
We also phrase that the Council should approve the refill and the reenactment of the Nigerian Police Trust Fund Establishment Act 2025 in order to remove the sunset clause and transition it into an agency.
It also endorsed the new executive bill to make the fund a permanent agency and observed a minute's silence for the late former Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase.
Your Excellency, sir.
Professor Amupitan's nomination now heads to the Nigerian Senate for confirmation, a decision that comes as Nigeria prepares for another decisive election cycle in 2027. As debates grow over how the head of the electoral body should be chosen and how credible posts can be guaranteed, no doubt the new INEC chair has his work cut out for him in stirring reforms and rebuilding confidence in Nigeria's democratic process. From the presidential villa, Adesua Omoruan, Arise News.
Thank you, Adesua. The House of Representatives has launched a series of investigations across Nigeria's oil, power and education sectors, from compliance failures under the Petroleum Industry Act to decades of poor electricity delivery and alleged financial mismanagement at NECO. Lawmakers are demanding accountability. Arise correspondent, another Adesua Giosagwe tells us more.
The House on Thursday constituted an ad hoc committee to investigate compliance with decommissioning and abandonment regulations under the Petroleum Industry Act.
Worried that most states in Nigeria are facing increasing risk exposure due to low compliance with decommissioning and asset transfer provision in the oil industry.
In the electricity sector, another committee has been tasked to audit all funds allocated to the Electricity Power Sector Reform Program from 2007 to 2024.
Implementing the PRSP has become imperative, pursuant to the powers of this House in Section 88 and 89 of 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Attention also turned to Nigeria's non-functioning state-owned refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna. Following a motion by Honorable Sesi Wingan, the House resolved to probe the over $18 billion spent on refinery turnaround maintenance across 2 decades with no tangible results.
The House is further worried that despite consistent annual budgetary allocation in the Appropriation Act over several years, there is no verifiable evidence of substantial rehabilitation outcomes, representing a gross misuse of public funds and betrayal of public trust.
On education, NECO is under scrutiny.
Worried that NECO is allegedly implementing its vehement without the required legislative approval. If this is so, it is a flagrant violation of our Constitution and inherent powers of this Honorable House.
Raising a social issue, lawmakers urge the federal government to prioritize girls' education and protection, particularly in conflict-affected areas, in line with this year's International Day of the Girl Child.
The House is aware that in times of crisis, be it armed conflict, natural disaster, or public health emergencies, girls often bear the brunt of the consequences.
In legislative matters, a bill to create Ibadan State from the current Oyo State has moved to committee state.
We live in Ibadan and work in Lagos every day. Ibadan deserve their own state.
The Speaker also swore in Honorable Elegbeji Adeshola Yetunde Ayola as a member following her victory in the recent INEC by-election for Ikenne Shagamu Remo North Federal Constituency in Ogun State. While plenary has been adjourned until next week, several lawmakers are scheduled to attend zonal town hall meetings as part of the ongoing constitutional amendment process. Adesua Giwa Osage, Arise News, Abuja.
Thank you, Adeswa. Well, amid reports of plans by the Bayelsa State Governor Duye Diri and his Enugu State counterpart, Peter Mba, to defect from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress, the PDP says it is not worried and is focused with plans for its November elective national convention. At the inauguration of the Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan-led Entertainment Committee for the convention, PDP National Publicity Secretary Debo Olugwangba insists that the party is bigger than any governor or governors. Olugwangba, who also spoke about the forthcoming Anambra election, governorship election, was confident of the PDP's victory.
We've gone through this route before. But because of this foundation of the PDP that is strong, solid, based on the people, and that's why we have reasons to believe that we are the only truly democratic party in this country that is based on ideas, that's based on conviction, and is based on policies. It's been on record here in this country that we've had vice president of this country leaving this party. We have presidents from this country under this platform that have shown interest not to be part of the party, or that have been docile by the activity of the party. But the party remains. So that is the message to Nigerians, that this is a party truly so-called.
We'll have 100 in all the wards. 100 in all the wards that have 10 voters. Either your mother, your father, your sister, your cousin, those 10 voters will become our club member. So if you times it at 326, I already have 326,000, that's 32,600 votes. That's 326,000 votes. So Anambra have never made 100,000 votes. That one is Dole. And then talk of my engagements.
Right, Rufai, this morning we have a number of stories before us. The bottom one, the politics, just as I just talked about. And then, of course, Adeswa Osage giving us reports on the activities of the legislators. And then Professor Joash Ojo Amupitan, that name will now be spoken on the lips of many Nigerians in the coming months and years ahead of 2027. Your take on these stories before us?
Okay, today I'll first start by paying tribute to Dr. Christopher Colladine, and I do that deliberately because I was awarded the Heritage for Life Foundation award last year, which Dr. Christopher Colladine was a grand patron, and in fact he signed off on the certificate. But apart from that, he's a great man. Yes. I met him many times.
Truly great man.
While he was alive. He was somebody that was always constantly willing to help. He was somebody that believed in the next generation, and that's why he had staying power. You see, we live in a country where a lot of politicians don't have staying power. Once their tenure is over, you don't hear about them again. The next thing you hear about them is the obituary. But from the days in Nigerian broadcasting, this was the 60s, 70s, leading up, to the time as a corporate titan, chairman of Cadbury, leading up to the time as High Commissioner, leading up to his work and service with the Lagos Business School and all he did afterwards. He was somebody you could always constantly go meet, and it's a loss to everybody. Yeah. I will pause on this before I give him a proper tribute, when the time comes for that. Professor Josh Amupitan should remember that the INEC chairman job is a graveyard for reputation. People have always said he has incorruptible integrity and all of that. We will know after he conducts the 2027 elections. If people still say he has integrity after the 2027 elections, I will know Professor Josh Amupitan has done a good job. But if people say otherwise, I will know that he has not done a good job. You see, I remember when Mahmoud Yakub came in. This was what we said about him. Oh, we said all the nice words too. In fact, we even touted the fact that he had Oxford, you know, and all of that.
First class scholar.
Scholar par excellence. Oh, this is a fitting. But after the elections today, see what has happened. A lot of people thought Mahmoud Yakub was going to redeem himself after the 2019 elections. But 2023, see what has happened. And he tried. But the powers that be in this country, because he brought about those reforms, truly, and we saw the signs that the reforms were working in the by-elections, where opposition party easily did win. The likes of Oshun happened, you know, the likes of, but some people have touted that and say Buhari was just somebody that loved fairness. But when he got to the presidential election, we saw what happened. And today, if you say, analyze the history of Mahmoud Yakub, mostly people will say the 2023 elections were not good. Until today, he's not able to tell us about the technical glitch. So, Professor George Amupitan should remember, and I'm going to say it in Yoruba, but I'm going to translate it. There's a saying in Yoruba that says, it's like drum beats, that we beat the drums of Agidigbo. It is the saying that understands it. So you should understand that a lot of people are praying for him to fail. And that's why you should be more cautious. You know, my father of blessed memories, Engineer Emil, said he will always say something. He will say, those that are helping us to look for something, they are not as much as those that want us to see it. So he should be careful. He will see sabotage. People internally will sabotage. He might have good intentions. You see, the road to hell is paved with good intention. But it's until you execute the intentions till the end, that's when the difference will come. You should also be careful of advisors, because they will come. Have you ever wondered why the crown of a Yoruba king has two birds chirping at each other? That's what we call life. He will face many sorts of counsel. Largely, Ahitophelic counsel will be paramount among what he will face. He will face threats, but he should understand that the priority of elections that are credible, that's what should be paramount in the hearts of Nigerians. Most importantly, he will stumble a couple of times. But life is not about stumbling, but it's how you can pick yourself back up. I think the first scorecard will be leading up to the 2027 elections. After 2027 elections, we'll open the book of Professor Amupitan and talk again. I just hope when we open that book, it will be for good for him. Professor Amupitan, I wish you well. I wish you what I wish myself. Nigerians wish you well. But the same Nigerians that wish you well today will not be so happy if we don't get credible elections. Do your part and leave the rest. Moving on to the second subject matter, which is around the PDP.
Yeah, the PDP, legislative matters as well, NNPC.
And NNPC. See, the PDP as a party, you know, when a man is drowning, he still struggles and gasps for breath. At some point, when he struggles and he puts his head to the top, you would think he's about to come out. But the true test of a man struggling in a floating ocean is when he finally comes out. When PDP presents a candidate for the 2027 elections, we will know all of these things they are saying, if it's true or not. But as it is today, they are in a notion, they are fighting to stay afloat, but they don't have a life jacket. Because all the centripetal and centrifugal forces have taken away their life jackets. A lot of their members at the campaign, they are hemorrhaging members like no man's business. The way chimney emits smoke, that's the way PDP is emitting members. From the National Assembly, some governors too, we have seen in their core states. So all of this, we will see. But the first steps will be their convention. We'll see how they pan out. As regards the NNPC probe, please, it is time for our lawmakers or whoever they are to stop deceiving us and telling us lies. Is it today that we know they spent over 18 billion on NNPC? The probe will not yield anything. Because you see, we keep running around in circle. And that's why I say culture will eat strategy for breakfast in this country. When you have a country where people don't have any level of integrity, were these not the same refineries that were sold that some people still went to deceive President Umar Musa Yar'Adua that they can fix this refinery? Is that not the same deceits that some people used to deceive Buhari? They collected more money. 3 billion down the drain. What happened? Is that not the same deceit that they are continuing today when Ojulari is saying that they need about 60 billion for expansion? We have said this thing long ago. When Atiku Abubakar said it, they said he wanted to sell the refinery to his cronies. But today, they now know Atiku was right. But they will never come out because of politics to say Atiku was right. So what would they do? They will keep whipping a dead horse and expect a turnaround of NNPC. And that's why we do yearly turnaround maintenance, but nothing is turning in the life of NNPC. The case of NNPC should get a turning point at some point.
All right, turning point at some point. So this motion was moved in the House by, in the Assembly by Honorable Oluwaseun Wingan, and he's from the Badagry Federal Constituency here in Lagos State, and it was to probe the activities, especially the funds spent by the NNPCL in the years under review 2010 to 2024, so about 14 years. Of course, like Rufai, you mentioned, if you go back in time to when, at the time, President Olusegun Obasanjo had wanted to sell, had actually sold the refineries, saying that they were not viable, they were not making money, and it looked like they couldn't resurrect it. And a few private investors showed interest and actually bought into it. But this transaction was reversed under the President Yar'Adua administration. And since then, and he said they were going to use public funds to try to revive the refineries, Port Harcourt, Kaduna, Warri refineries. Since then, we have been spending money up to the tune of $18 billion. And ladies and gentlemen listening, I'm sure you know that the refineries are not working, despite the many announcements, despite the many promises by GCOs or heads of NNPCL saying that this year, giving deadlines that have not yet been met. And so finally, the lawmakers are saying, you know what, we need to probe this. And they've given themselves a timeline of 4 weeks with the relevant committees to look into the matter, to see, number one, the status of the refinery, number two, how the funds were spent, number three, the bodies, organizations that were responsible for this rot with regards to the refinery. So we wait eagerly, Nigerians, as to what the outcome of that report will be, and very importantly, what happened to the $18 billion, who is responsible for the corruption shrouding that amount of money, and we'll see whether or not, if anyone is found culpable following that investigation, anything would happen to them. Because we cannot continue to have public funds used or managed in such a manner that's wasteful with nothing to show for it. Announcements and budgetary allocations passed by the National Assembly each year, and we have nothing to show for it, and Nigerians continue to look without saying anything. So this is within their remit in terms of oversight. I'm looking forward to not just announcements, but actually a follow-through and an outcome of what the report would be. Nigerians need to know what $18 billion or even more was used for in the last 14 years, and where that money has gone, and why should, the refineries are not working. And then even a further conversation around, should the refineries now be sold? The current GCO of NNPCL, Mr. Bayo Ojulari, has not ruled that out completely, because if the NNPCL Nigeria is sinking funds into trying to revive refineries that continue to not work, maybe it's time we sold it and actually, come to terms with the fact that it is an asset that we are unable to manage properly. If not for the intervention or the coming on stream of the Dangote refinery, Nigeria would still be largely import dependent, a country that produces crude oil that is exported to many parts of the world, continues to import PMS. And so these are some of the questions this morning, and it's a good move, but the most important thing would be what the outcome of this investigation by the committees will be, and what the consequent actions would be following the outcome of the report. We don't want any off your mic moments. We don't want any sweeping under the carpet moments. We don't want any drama. We just want the truth and an uncovering of what has been done with Nigeria's money. Now, moving on to one of the biggest news stories this morning, of course, the Council of State, which comprises some, high-level committee. They have no executive function, but they are there to provide advice at a very high level to the president. It comprises the president, who chairs the council, the vice president, former presidents and heads of government, Attorney General of the Federation, Senate, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the President of the Senate, and as well as other significant members of the Nigerian society. And what they do literally is just like, as it was reported by Adesua Moran, they advise on, they look at the honor role. They also advise on who should be pardoned, as we heard on the pardoning of Murtala Mohammed and Vasta. That was also approved. They also look at the National Population Census, amongst other duties. And this time, and just to highlight, was them supporting the choice of the president in the person of Professor Amupitan. They have no, they have no executive function, like I mentioned earlier, but at least their support and their advice ought to be well taken by the president, because they come with a wealth of experience and knowledge, having held significant or currently holding significant positions in Nigeria. Now, if you watched last night, this day MD, Mr. Eniola Bello, who has known Professor Amupitan for a significant number of years, had a number of things to say about Professor Amupitan that ought to inspire hope and positive anticipation for a lot of Nigerians. He had spoken, and a number of people have also attested to the brilliance of the man. He's a first-class graduate of law, also did excellently well at the law school, currently Deputy Vice Chancellor at University of Jos for Administration. He's held many positions of leadership, including being the head of department, dean of faculty, chairman of the Committee of Deans, now the Deputy Vice Chancellor. He's also served as on the Council of Legal Education and Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. And so he comes with a wealth of experience, whether it be in corporate governance, law, evidence law. So a number of things there, we can lean on that. In the last INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, was also a scholar in that right. So in that way, competence check. Well, the Senate would be the ones to finally determine that. But also, in terms of his personality and values, what Mr. Eniola Bello said last night is one that Nigeria should hold on to, which is that he's a man of integrity and humility, that despite all his achievements, he's still not hogged the limelight, but just focused on his work and done it very well. But again, like you mentioned, Rufai, the true taste of the pudding is in the eating. We hear all these glowing testimonials about Professor Amupitan, and it is excellent to know that a good choice based on his competence, based on personal attestation of his values and his person, have come out very strongly. But what Nigerians would judge him on now would be how he would manage the process of elections and how we our leadership recruitment process in Nigeria at a critical time in the nation where INEC has come under a lot of scrutiny and criticism. We've not yet been able to get over what happened in 2023, especially since the introduction of technology was supposed to be a game changer and make the institution more transparent and more reputable under the leadership of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. Despite all he said that he tried to prosecute a free and fair election, there were still a number of question marks around areas, Port Harcourt, for instance, violence in some parts. We also talked about electoral reform to strengthen the work of the INEC chair. So all eyes now would be on Professor Amupitan. How would he run the institution in a way as to restore the confidence and trust of the Nigerian people? What will happen? He has some tests before the major elections in 2027. We have the Anambra governorship elections coming up soon, and that would probably be one of his biggest tests in his role as INEC chair. So Nigerians are looking forward to, based on his credence, based on his history, based on what people have said, those who know him, based on his academic records, to lead INEC in a way that would leave him a legacy that is not just what he writes about or says, but a legacy based on the work that he has done. I also would also mention that when he appears before Senate, it's also an opportunity for Nigerians who might have any brief on him. If there's any skeleton in his cupboard, this is the time to actually petition or write to your representative in the National Assembly to bring this up. We don't want a situation as we've had in the past where it to just be a take a bow and go, or just a rubber stamp of what the president has, presented before the Senate. We want a rigorous and complete scrutiny of what he has done and what he has been able to do. I don't think this man, there are any certificate scandals in his future. I'm sure he's able to defend the certificates he's had, in the course of his career. But I think very importantly, some very important scrutiny, and Nigerians should also be part of that process. If there's anyone who knows him personally and knows there are certain things that would, make him unqualified to take on that role, this is the time to speak up or forever hold your peace. Finally, on PDP, before you said it already, with regards to, I find it very difficult to see how PDP will survive ahead of the next election. It's a very worrying time, and I'm glad that Mr. Debo Ologunagba has come out with a show of positivity and just optimistic about the future of the PDP. But where the PDP governors are living in droves, as it were, it doesn't all go well for the party, because it means they are losing more political base ahead of a very critical time in our political space in Nigeria.